The FA Cup is one of the oldest association football competitions in the world, having been played almost every year since its inception in 1871. Due to its contenders from all divisions of English football and its knockout nature, the Cup has given birth to some memorable giant slayings throughout its history. Ahead of this year's Cup final between Manchester United and Chelsea, let's take a look back at some of the players who took their chance to etch their names into FA Cup folklore with the top 10 FA Cup heroes. Number 10. Ricardo Villa. The English leagues haven't always been so international, so it was a big deal for a player as decorated as Argentina's World Cup star Ricardo Villa to land at Tottenham in 1978. It was an even bigger deal when he scored what some would call the club's most famous goal in the 1981 FA Cup final. The game between Spurs and Manchester City ended in a draw initially, so went to a replay, but some feared Villa wouldn't make an appearance as he was substituted in the first match. But make an appearance he did, scoring the opening goal and then the winner from an incredible dribble to break a 2-2 deadlock with only 14 minutes left on the clock. Number 9. Will Grigg. Perhaps best known at this point for his catchy song sung by Wigan and Northern Ireland fans, Will Grigg was on fire in this year's FA Cup. He fired Wigan all the way to the semi-finals with his 7 goals in the competition, but his most notable came against Manchester City in the quarter-finals. He scored the only goal in the game, which saw Manchester City eliminated from their first tournament of the year, putting the first dent into the team that some at the time were calling the best in the history of English football. Grigg may not have had the chance to compete for glory in the final, but he did get a hot and spicy pie named after him at a local bakery in Wigan for his performance against City. It will probably immortalise him better than a trophy anyway. Number 8. Jimmy Montgomery. Producing one of the finest double saves in the history of the sport, Sunderland's goalkeeper Jimmy Montgomery helped his team to win the club's second FA Cup trophy in 1973. Their opponents, Leeds, had won the previous year and were heavy favourites coming into the match as they were one of the dominant powers in English football at the time, and Sunderland were in the second division. After Sunderland took a surprising lead in the 32nd minute, Montgomery produced a beautiful set of saves to keep the scoreline at 1-0, but it was his save from a header and the immediate follow-up save from a 10-yard strike which he tipped onto the crossbar that immortalised Montgomery as an FA Cup hero. Number 7. Dave Bezant. Wimbledon's Dave Bezant made history at the 1988 FA Cup final against Liverpool before the ball had even been kicked, as he was the first goalkeeper to captain his side in the final. Not content to simply be remembered for that though, he also became the first goalkeeper to save a penalty in the FA Cup final, denying John Aldridge's 60th minute spot kick, keeping Wimbledon's 1-0 lead intact to win, and he lifted the trophy as club captain. It was, however, to be his last game for Wimbledon, as he earned a record transfer fee for a goalkeeper that summer when he was bought by Newcastle. Number 6. Bert Trautmann. As you may have noticed by now, goalkeepers are often the heroes of cup matches, but in the 1923 final, Manchester City's German stopper Bert Trautmann went above and beyond to see his side win. He'd seen City lose the previous year after a poor performance from himself, but protected their 3-1 lead over Birmingham City by diving at an incoming ball and getting knocked out in a collision between a knee and his neck. Dazed, he continued for the final 15 minutes and even made another crucial save. 3 days after the match though, an X-ray revealed he dislocated 5 vertebrae in the collision, one of which had cracked in half, and only because of the way they'd shifted had he escaped death. Number 5. Ashley Cole. As one of only 2 players to have won the domestic double with 2 separate clubs, and having played for both Arsenal's invincible teams and Chelsea during Jose Mourinho's first stint at the club, Ashley Cole is widely regarded as one of the sport's greatest ever left-backs. His record-breaking 7 FA Cup wins support that claim. He played in 8 finals, losing the first of the 4 he appeared in for Arsenal, but won the 4 he played in for Chelsea too, and handily beat the previous record of 5 FA Cup wins. Number 4. Arsene Wenger. Arsenal's manager of the past 22 years may have recently departed the club, but his legacy in the FA Cup will live on for a long time. Since winning the competition as part of a domestic double his first season in charge of Arsenal, he went on to win it a further 6 times, surpassing his nemesis at Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson's tally of 5, and former Aston Villa boss George Ramsay's total of 6 to become the most successful manager in the history of the Cup. He also made Arsenal the most successful team in the history of the FA Cup, upping their titles to 13 over his tenure. Much like the Premier League, the Frenchman took the English tournament by storm. Number 3. Didier Drogba. As the first African player to score 100 goals in the Premier League, Didier Drogba is one of Chelsea's all-time greats. But in the FA Cup specifically, he's remembered for his extra-time strike against Manchester United in the 2007 final, which was the first game in the rebuilt Wembley and the first FA Cup final win for coach Jose Mourinho, the man who'd brought Drogba to England. However, even more memorably, Drogba scored in all 4 of the FA Cup finals he played in, becoming the first and only player to score in 4 separate finals of the competition. Number 2. Steven Gerrard. The 2006 FA Cup final wasn't played at Wembley, as is tradition, as the stadium was being reconstructed. It was instead played at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, and the match was between 2 Premier League sides of Liverpool and West Ham. West Ham took a 2-0 lead in the first half, but after Liverpool battled back to equalise just after half-time thanks to Gerrard's first goal of the game, West Ham went ahead again. As the game entered injury time, a clearance from the West Ham box fell to Gerrard, who volleyed a screamer 35 yards into the goal, taking the match to extra time, and Liverpool won on penalties. A BBC Sport poll in 2015 rated Gerrard's goal as the best in an FA Cup in the past 50 years, and the match is best remembered for his contributions. Number 1. Sir Stanley Matthews. Sir Stanley Matthews' impact at the 1953 FA Cup final was so great that the match was named after him. Matthews had been a part of the Black Ball teams that had lost both the 1948 and 1951 finals, and when Blackpool were 3-1 down against Bolton Wanderers in 1953 in what was the first English sporting event with a major TV audience, it looked like they were doomed to suffer the same fate in front of the entire nation. The winger took the game by the scruff of the neck though and provided 2 sumptuous crosses to spur his team to victory. He went on to be named the winner of the inaugural European Footballer of the Year award in 1956, ahead of Real Madrid legend Alfredo Di Stefano, and he also became the first player to be knighted while still an active professional. What do you think? Have we missed anybody? And who are you watching for to make history this weekend when Manchester United play Chelsea? Let us know in the comments below along with what other videos you'd like to see, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any. Thanks so much for watching, I'm Lloyd Mallison and we'll see you soon.